Breaking news, Jalen Carter is extended. 4 years, $152 million. It's $106 million guaranteed. It's a big contract, but we lock up Jalen Carter through, I believe, 2031. So let's get into this deal. Let's start off with the length of the contract. It is 4 years and $152 million. It is a big commitment to a player that really hasn't shown us what we think his true potential is. I mean, coming out of Georgia, he was known as raw, but super athletic, super twitchy. And we have seen it in some moments. I mean, the playoff run, he was amazing, but we really expected another step in 25 and him to really prove himself as one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And we didn't really see it. I think in terms of DT1s, I think pure athleticism, I think the highs are up there as a top 5 guy in this league. But I think that the lows, sometimes he can disappear, and sometimes he just looks like an average guy out there. I don't think that people are going into a game, oh, we have to double team Jalen Carter. We have to do these things for Jalen Carter. So to have this big of a commitment to a guy that hasn't done a lot, it shows, one, they really believe in this guy and his mentals. Sometimes the mentals of a guy seem off, and that's why you have to get rid of him. A.J. Brown. But when you have Jalen Carter, yes, he's had some stuff in the past with the driving and then the spitting on Dak Prescott. But I think everything together, they must believe in this kid, and they must believe he loves the game of football. He loves doing what he does. He loves getting better. He's committed to it, and therefore they gave him this contract, and they are putting a large commitment into him. I think we saw earlier in camp he held in, well, not earlier in training camp because training camp started today, but in mini camp and other stuff he held in, and I think that was proof that something was coming. When you hold in, it means, hey, I'm here, I'm not upset, but I do have something going on, and because it wasn't an injury, it was probably to protect his health. His agent probably said, hey, if you go out there and get hurt, this deal's off the table. The deal was probably pretty close. It was probably, hey, we have 6 weeks off. Let's see how you come into camp. And he came into camp. He must have been in pretty good shape. And they were instantly, hey, 4 years, 152, sign here, And it got done. It got done on day 1 of camp. They had like 3 meetings today. And then how he saw him, he was like, wow, the muscles were looking good. And he gave him the extension. That's got to be how this worked out. I mean, it makes sense. It's day 1 of training camp. But we're seeing Jalen Carter with all this money poured into him. I think he is doing something right. And I think that it has to be, from a physical perspective, we know he has that physical talent, that twitchiness, that raw athleticism that usually you get from a guy in an edge rusher with an edge rusher build, but you're getting it from a defensive tackle with an interior guy build. Maybe he's not the biggest. Maybe he's a little bit undersized. That's also probably just because right next to him is Jordan Davis, so of course he's going to look small. But you see that twitchiness that you really don't see from many interior guys like that. And so to have the physical oomph, the physique, the oomph, the strength behind it is going to be important. But the thing that I'm still concerned about with Jalen Carter, that this doesn't fix because you're not going to see it until he's in a real game, is what's his effort going to look like? Because his effort has been the problem with Jalen Carter. When he is giving 100%, he is going all out. When it's 3rd down late in the game, Jalen Carter comes through and makes a play. But when it's the second quarter and you have a 21-0 lead against Dallas, well, but like when you're in a big situation, you're up a lot of points, Jalen Carter just steps away. Jalen Carter doesn't really show up in some of these moments. There is just some effort concerns with him that I really think that he needs to pick up and fix. But there's still so much talent with him that I think it's a good thing. One of the things with the Eagles is that money isn't real. When you have Jeffrey Lurie mainly, but Howie as well is able to manipulate the cap. But when you have an owner that's able to sacrifice all this money, a lot of GMs don't have the flexibility that we have because their owner doesn't have that much money or doesn't want to use it. And so these owners have to put up, I think, all of this money, right? I think he's putting up his 152 M's, and that's going to go to Jalen Carter over a span. So the owners really have to be okay with this. And luckily, we have a guy in Jeffrey Lurie that's okay with that. And we have a guy in Howie that's going to move this money around to where I'm not ridiculously concerned about the future. We were able to get off of a big contract in A.J. Brown. And the money is just going to keep going up. And I have a theory about Jalen Hurts that he's going to not have as big of a cap hit as we're expecting over these next 2 years. I think either he could get extended and rolls out, or I think in general, like, he doesn't need that money. He's a great quarterback. He deserves the money. But he lives in this small house. He's real humble. He can give us some of that money back. He can take a little pay cut. That seems like a Jalen Hurts thing to do. I'm not saying, he's a bad guy if he doesn't do it. But I feel like there are just so many ways that we can get off of this money. And maybe that does have to include getting rid of a guy like Zach Bond, or even manipulating Saquon's contract, or Landon Dickerson. We saw them manipulate his contract, and he's probably gone a year early. So there are these things that we can do with money where I don't think it's a big concern, but it can be a concern because you have to extend Cooper Dejean and Quinyon Mitchell. There is no debate. If you don't extend those guys, it's going to be a problem. If Tariq Woolen has a great year this year, I don't think it matters. I think you can't have Q, Coop, and Tariq Woolen on a big deal. I just don't think. I know Howie's great. I don't think it's possible for him. But you can have Coop and Q on these mega deals, I think, and still make it work. But you have to make sure with this contract that you are not sacrificing one of those guys. We cannot be sacrificing Q or Coop. I would much rather sacrifice Jalen Carter than those two because of how important those two guys are. But I think that this is a fine deal overall. I'm not the most excited about it. I'm happy that they are committing to someone. I'm happy that he's getting his money. And I'm happy that it's over in some ways. But I just do think it's a lot. And if it ends up biting us, I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. That's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop a like and subscribe and hype the video up. That's a new thing. So yeah, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.